Thomas Paine, 1737 to 1809, was one of the most influential political thinkers of the late 18th century. His writings helped shape revolutionary movements in America, France, and Britain. Among his most notable works is Rights of Man, 1791 to 1792, a powerful defense of the French Revolution and a critique of monarchy and hereditary government. The book was a response to Edmund Burke's Reflections on the Revolution in France, 1790, which attacked the revolution as a dangerous and illegitimate upheaval. Paine's Rights of Man became a foundational text for modern democracy, advocating for individual rights, republican government, and social welfare. This essay explores Rights of Man in detail, examining its historical context, main arguments, impact, and legacy. Historical context. The late 18th century was a period of great political and social upheaval. The American Revolution, 1775 to 1783, had successfully overthrown British rule, and its principles of liberty and democracy had inspired political thinkers worldwide. Meanwhile, the French Revolution, which began in 1789, was shaking the foundations of European monarchy and aristocracy. The revolution initially sought constitutional reforms, but quickly escalated into a radical restructuring of French society, culminating in the abolition of the monarchy in 1792. Edmund Burke, a conservative British politician and philosopher, was one of the first major figures to attack the French Revolution. In his book, Reflections on the Revolution in France, Burke argued that revolution would lead to chaos, violence, and tyranny. He defended the idea of monarchy and tradition, insisting that gradual change, rather than revolution, was the only way to ensure stability. Paine, who had already played a major role in advocating for American independence with his pamphlet Common Sense, 1776, saw Burke's arguments as a direct attack on the principles of liberty and human rights. He wrote Rights of Man in response, defending the legitimacy of the French Revolution and calling for democratic reform forms in Britain. Main arguments in Rights of Man. 1. Government's role is to protect natural rights. One of Paine's central arguments is that government exists to serve the people, not the other way around. He asserts that all individuals are born with natural rights, including the right to liberty, property, and security. Governments are legitimate only if they protect these rights. Monarchies, he argues, are illegitimate because they are based on hereditary privilege rather than the consent of the governed. Paine criticizes Burke's defense of monarchy, stating that kings and aristocrats have no divine right to rule. Instead, he argues for a republican system in which leaders are chosen by the people. 2. Critique of hereditary government and aristocracy. Paine strongly condemns the idea of hereditary rule. He argues that just because someone is born into a royal family does not mean they are qualified to govern. He compares monarchy to absurd practices such as hereditary medicine or hereditary mathematics, where a person would be assigned a role without regard for ability. He also attacks the aristocracy, calling it a corrupt institution that exists only to serve its own interests at the expense of the people. He argues that titles of nobility create artificial divisions in society and promote inequality. 3. Defense of the French Revolution. Paine defends the French Revolution as a necessary and just movement. He argues that the French people were overthrowing an oppressive system and establishing a government based on the principles of liberty, equality, and fraternity. He dismisses Burke's warnings about chaos and violence, claiming that revolution is sometimes necessary to remove tyranny. 4. Advocacy for republican government. A major theme in Rights of Man is the advocacy of republicanism over monarchy. Paine argues that a government should be based on the will of the people, and that all political power should be derived from popular sovereignty. He praises the American system, where representatives are elected and leaders are accountable to the citizens. He suggests that Britain should follow the example of the United States and France by adopting a democratic system that ensures the rights and welfare of the people. Number 5. Economic and social reforms. In the second part of Rights of Man, published in 1792, Paine moves beyond political theory and proposes concrete social reforms. He argues that governments should actively work to reduce poverty and inequality. Some of his proposals include a progressive tax system where the wealthy pay higher taxes to support social programs, state-funded education for all children, pensions for the elderly, public employment programs for the poor. These ideas were revolutionary at the time and foreshadowed modern welfare states. Public reception, Rights of Man, was immensely popular. It was widely read by the working class and reformers who sought democratic change in Britain. The book sold over 200,000 copies within a few years, making it one of the most widely distributed political texts of its time. Many saw Paine as a champion of the common people and an advocate for social justice. His arguments resonated with those who were frustrated by the British government's resistance to democratic reforms. Government suppression. The British government, however, saw Rights of Man as a dangerous text that could incite rebellion. The ruling class feared that revolutionary ideas from France would spread to Britain and lead to political instability. In 1792, the British government charged Paine with sedition, inciting rebellion, and banned Rights of Man. Paine was forced to flee to France, where he was welcomed as a revolutionary hero and given honorary citizenship. Influence on political movements. Despite government efforts to suppress it, Rights of Man had a lasting impact on democratic movements in Britain and beyond. It inspired reformers who sought greater political representation and influenced later democratic struggles, including the push for universal suffrage. Paine's ideas also shaped early socialist thought. His proposals for progressive taxation and social welfare were ahead of their time and influenced later thinkers such as Karl Marx. Legacy of Rights of Man. Paine's Rights of Man remains one of the most important works in the history of political thought. Its legacy can be seen in several key areas. 1. Influence on democracy. Paine's arguments for popular sovereignty and democratic government helped shape modern democratic institutions. His rejection of monarchy and aristocracy laid the groundwork for the spread of republicanism. 2. Social reform and welfare. Many of the social policies Paine advocated, such as progressive taxation and public education, have become fundamental elements of modern welfare states. His ideas anticipated the role of government in providing social services. 3. Inspiration for later movements. Rights of Man has inspired countless democratic and social movements, from 19th century Chartism in Britain to the civil rights movement in the United States. His vision of government as a servant of the people continues to influence political debates today. 4. Paine's reputation. Despite his influence, Paine's radicalism led to a complex legacy. In Britain, he was seen as a dangerous revolutionary, while in America, his later criticisms of organized religion in the Age of Reason damaged his reputation. However, today he is widely recognized as one of the key figures in the development of modern democratic thought. Thomas Paine's Rights of Man was a groundbreaking work that defended the French Revolution, attacked monarchy, and called for democratic government and social reform. It was a powerful response to Edmund Burke and an influential text that shaped the course of political thought. Although it was banned in Britain, its ideas spread widely and contributed to the development of democratic movements. Paine's vision of government as a protector of individual rights and provider of social welfare remains relevant today. His radical ideas continue to inspire those who seek justice, equality, and freedom. Rights of Man is not just a historical document. It is a call to action that still resonates in the modern world.